She never thought you'd actually leave. She never thought you'd change. Because, for so long, you made it too easy. You were always there, always understanding, always adjusting your truth to keep the peace. You became softer, quieter, and smaller, just to make her feel secure. But deep down, something inside you was dying. Carl Jung once said, "Every transformation demands the death of the old self." And for men like you, the ones who love deeply, who stay loyal even when they're breaking, your old self is the version of you that let yourself be treated like an option. This video isn't about revenge. This is about resurrection. It's about the moment when you stop chasing validation from people who were never meant to understand you and start becoming the man you were always supposed to be. Because the truth is, she'll only regret losing you when you become the man who no longer needs her. Let's begin. The lie. You believed that love means losing yourself. You were raised to believe that a good man provides. He protects. He doesn't complain. He sacrifices. And while those things are powerful in the right context, Jung warned about something darker. When the persona, the mask we wear to be accepted, becomes our identity, we lose contact with the soul. That's what happened to you. You weren't just in love. You were trying to be enough. So you tolerated the disrespect, the silence, the passive-aggressive comments, the way she used your loyalty as a leash, not as a gift. You didn't notice it at first, because pain can feel like love when that's all you've known. You kept thinking, maybe I just need to be more patient. Maybe I'm too sensitive. Maybe if I just hold on longer, she'll see who I really am. But Carl Jung would have told you this. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. And that includes you. You avoided your soul by becoming what she wanted. The breaking point. When you realize she's not coming to save you. There comes a moment in every man's life when the illusion cracks. Maybe it happened late at night, when she left your message on read again. Maybe it happened during an argument, where you realized she didn't care if you walked out the door. Or maybe it happened in complete silence, when she stopped loving you, but kept you around for convenience. That moment broke something in you. But here's the secret. It needed to break. Because until it did, you would have stayed trapped in the fantasy that she would one day wake up and finally recognize your worth. Jung believed that suffering has a purpose, not to destroy you, but to expose what was never real. She didn't fall out of love with you. She fell out of control. You stopped reacting. You stopped begging. And that terrified her more than anything. Because now, you're dangerous. Not because you're cruel, but because you finally realize you were always the prize. The shift. When you stop performing and start becoming. This is the beginning of individuation, the point Jung described as the return to the self. It's not about becoming someone new. It's about becoming someone real. You stop editing your personality for approval. You stop suppressing your anger just to appear mature. You stop needing her texts, her validation, her recognition. You begin focusing on becoming a man who sets boundaries without explaining himself, doesn't confuse peace with people-pleasing, prioritizes self-respect over temporary comfort, sees rejection as redirection, chooses solitude over false connection, and that's the man she'll regret losing. Because now, you're not the emotional sponge she used to drain. You're not the safety net she ran back to after chasing men who treated her worse. You've become unpredictable, unreachable, unbothered, and that makes you magnetic. Carl Jung and the Power of Withdrawn Energy. Jung taught that when you reclaim your projections, when you stop expecting others to complete you, you enter psychological wholeness. That's what this phase is. You stop placing her on a pedestal. You stop thinking she's your better half. You start seeing her for what she is, a mirror that showed you where you were still abandoning yourself. And the moment you stop pouring into her world, she feels it. She wonders where your energy went. She questions whether she misjudged you. She starts watching your stories again. She sends just checking in messages. She subtly tries to re-enter your life. But it's too late. Because you've built a life that doesn't revolve around her anymore. You've become the man she pretended you weren't. Closing the door. Not for revenge, but for peace. You don't block her out of spite. You don't glow up just to prove her wrong. You evolve. Because you were supposed to, with or without her. Jung said it best. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. This isn't fate. This is you waking up. You stop replaying old arguments in your head. You stop overanalyzing what she meant when she said, "I'm not ready for something serious." You stop trying to make someone love you who never even tried to understand you. She'll regret losing you, yes, but not because you finally became what she wanted. She'll regret it because she never saw what was right in front of her. The man who gave everything, and then learned to give it to himself instead. She didn't regret losing the version of you who begged to stay. She didn't miss the man who waited by the phone, silencing his needs just to keep her happy. No, she only started to miss you when you became a mystery again. When you started choosing yourself. When you stopped seeking her permission to exist fully. Because that's what she never expected. That the man who once gave her everything would become the man she could never reach again. The archetype she can't forget. The man who chose himself. Carl Jung believed that women are drawn to the man who has successfully integrated his anima, the feminine part of his psyche. But this doesn't mean being souffreur or submissive. It means being whole. balanced, unshakable. This kind of man is not desperate for love. He respects it, but he doesn't need it to survive. This is the man who knows how to feel, but doesn't drown in emotion, knows how to walk away, not just threaten it, doesn't fight for someone who's willing to lose him, heals in silence, without performing it for applause. He doesn't talk about working on himself just to win her back. He actually does it. And that's when her perception shifts from power to panic, because the man she used to control through withdrawal, silence, and mixed signals now walks in and out of rooms with his head held high, without flinching, without chasing, without looking back. He's no longer predictable. He's no longer available. And that is when regret begins. The unspoken truth about women who lose. Good men. She didn't leave because you were weak. She left because she didn't think you'd ever wake up. When she stopped replying, she expected desperation. When she pulled away, she expected you to lean in harder. When she said, "It's not you, it's me," she expected you to say, "Please, let me fix it." But instead, you became quiet, not out of sadness, but out of power. You didn't chase. You reflected. You didn't beg. You evolved. And she didn't know how to handle that version of you, because she never thought you'd meet your shadow. Carl Jung's shadow. Integration, the man she can't control. Most people try to hide their shadow, their anger, their pain, their raw masculinity. But Jung taught that real strength comes when a man doesn't reject his darkness. He integrates it. You didn't become cold. You became clear. You stopped apologizing for your masculine edge. You stopped twisting yourself into a version that fit her comfort zone. You embraced the parts of yourself that were always waiting to be unleashed. Your silence, your direction, your standards, your inner fire. Now she's watching you move like you don't need her. She's sensing that you're becoming the man she wished you were, but without her. She's confused. She's spiraling. Because for the first time, she's seeing her own reflection and realizing she wasn't ready for a man like you. Masculine polarity. The energetic shift. She regrets losing. There's something unspoken that happens when you become the man who no longer seeks. You become a pull instead of a push. Your energy changes rooms. You stop texting first. You stop trying to prove anything. You show up, fully grounded in who you are. And that stillness is louder than any words. This is Jung's self in motion, not fragmented, not desperate, but whole. And women can feel it, even if they don't know why. She feels your detachment. She sees your growth. She realizes you weren't the weak one in the story. You were just asleep. Now that you're awake, she's the one who can't sleep. The mirror effect. Why she regrets losing you too late. The man you've become is a mirror, not of what she had, but what she refused to grow with. And that realization hurts in a way most people will never admit. She thinks about how you used to look at her, with eyes full of devotion and loyalty. She remembers the nights you stayed up trying to understand her. She replays every moment you showed her a level of love she wasn't ready to receive. And now she watches from a distance as that energy radiates somewhere else, not towards her, not for her, not about her. That's what regret feels like when it's too late. And for the first time, she doesn't just miss you. She misses the man she could have grown with, if only she had chosen to grow too. This is what makes you irreplaceable. It's not the glow up, not the gym, not the money. It's the depth. It's the man who's walked through emotional fire and didn't burn, but forged. The man who doesn't need to raise his voice to be heard. The man who doesn't chase. The man who's no longer running from himself. Jung called this the process of individuation, becoming who you are, not what the world asked you to be. She didn't lose a boyfriend. She lost a future, not because you wanted to hurt her, but because you finally stopped hurting yourself to keep her. And that's when she'll regret it the most. This isn't about proving anything. You don't need to. Because the version of you she regrets losing is the one who stopped needing her regret to move forward. You didn't win by replacing her with someone new. You didn't win by posting your highlight reel on Instagram. You won the moment you decided your healing was for you, not for her attention. Carl Jung once said, "A man who has not passed through the inferno of his passions has never overcome them." And now, you've walked through that inferno, burned by betrayal, scarred by silence, but refined. This is the man she will always remember. He doesn't leave behind chaos. He leaves behind clarity. He doesn't ghost. He evolves. He doesn't block out of rage. He detaches with grace. And that grace is what haunts her, because it's no longer fueled by pain. It's powered by peace. You've become the man who no longer tries to be understood, the man who doesn't shrink for love, the man who loves himself enough to walk away from anything that costs his soul. This is the kind of man no woman forgets. From wounded to untouchable. The full Jungian arc. You used to think strength was holding on. Now you know. True strength is letting go before you lose yourself. Jung described the full transformation of the male psyche as a return to the self, not to ego, not to validation, but to wholeness. That means you now walk away with dignity, not desperation. Choose silence over explaining. Let women earn your softness, not inherit it for free. Refuse to entertain confusion, masked as romance. Never again offer loyalty where there is no respect. She'll regret it, not because you became harder, but because you became sharper, focused, calm, selective, not cold, but filtered, not bitter, but awakened. And now, you've built an inner kingdom no one can shake. When love finds you again, you don't repeat old stories. You don't fall for surface. You don't bend to win someone's approval. You love differently. You love as a man who knows his worth, not as a boy trying to prove it. And that's when real love shows up. Not as chaos, but as alignment. Not as drama, but as depth. The kind of love that doesn't need fixing. Because both of you already did the work alone. And by the time she realizes that, you'll be somewhere else. Mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Not out of revenge, but because your healing gave birth to a man she'll never meet again. And if she ever comes back, she might. She might message out of nowhere. She might watch your stories, like old photos, or drop hints that she's changed. But here's the truth. Jung would want you to remember, we cannot change anything until we accept it. Condemnation does not liberate. It oppresses. You don't need to condemn her. You don't even need closure. Because this journey wasn't about her. It was about you. About the version of yourself you had to abandon. To finally find the version you were born to be. You're not waiting for regret. You're walking into rebirth. You're not proving you were good enough. You're becoming so whole. No one's absence feels like lack anymore. And in that stillness, that's when the world feels your presence. Let her regret it. You're busy rebuilding. The man you are now, he's rare. He doesn't fear loss. He doesn't need saving. He doesn't trade authenticity for attachment. He simply becomes unforgettable. Not because you played games, not because you sought revenge, but because you chose growth. You chose you. And that's what she'll regret the most. Not that she lost you, but that she lost the chance to love a man who finally loved himself. If this spoke to something deep inside you, Mawa, you already know what to do. Like the video, drop a comment saying, I choose me, if you're walking away from the version of you who begged to be seen. Subscribe to the channel for more Carl Jung insights and real-world masculinity that heals. And if you want to support this transformation, drop a super thanks, because this journey deserves to be honored.